Welcome to Red Barron Reviews. I'm Barron, and today we are taking a look at a brand new knife for 2022 and a brand new knife for Kershaw, and that is the Kershaw Federalist. And look at that, I saved you an unboxing right off the bat. For those who do care though, cardboard box, knife comes in a plastic sleeve with an oxygen absorber, and it has a little bit of paperwork in there about general knife care, but nothing specific to this knife. So not the greatest packaging in the world. If you're buying this knife to use, who really cares though? So with that, let's fly through the specs and then go into my impression and the review. So CPM 154 steel. We've got a open length of 7.5 inches, a blade length of 3.25 inches, closed 4.25, and it's 2.1 ounces. The blade finish, if you can't see, is kind of a tumbled satin finish. They did a pretty good job on that. I kind of like it. Clip point blade, it's got a nice big belly right here, and the thing is razor sharp right out of the box. You've got steel liners and a backspacer that appears to be plastic or polymer, whatever you want to call that. And yeah, so with that, let's kind of do a size comparison and then compare it to slip joints. So this is advertised to be a slip joint. Now, if you actually read the material, they do state that it is a detent locking system, so not a slip joint, but it is supposed to kind of compete in that market. I think it's their first push into that. So with that, let's do a little size comparison with a slip joint. We have the Victorinox Cadet, a Great Eastern Cutlery number 15, and something that I thought it was real similar to in size, not weight though, the Buck 110. So pretty close in size to the 110. It's a lot slimmer, but length very close. The blade is even similar. They're both clip points, and it gives me another chance to show off my 110 because I absolutely love this knife. I think it's super underrated. But enough with that. Back to the Kershaw. So as I stated, it's supposed to compete with slip joints, but it's not. With that detent lock, you don't have any spring back pressure here, right? There is no back spring. So I can open that, nothing's going to happen. As we're with a regular slip joint, it is under constant spring tension. Sorry guys, my lighting kind of sucks today, but constant spring tension. Since this is competing with slip joints, let's go ahead and run it through a review like I would a slip joint. So with that, let's do the walk and talk first. So not really hearing much on that half stop. This knife does have a half stop. They did a good job with that as a kind of nod to slip joints. They added that half stop, so that's pretty cool. I kind of dig that. They definitely put some thought into this. But let's compare that to the gold standard of slip joints, the number 15 Barlow. So obviously, way better walk and talk on this. And I would expect that because it's got a back spring. The other thing I want to point out while we're talking about a traditional slip joint is that spring tension. So it feels like there's more, it takes more effort to get this to start to close. And if you accidentally started to, it snap back or go to the half stop. Or if you're really improperly using this, probably close on your fingers and cut them off. But hey, slip joints, that's the nature of them. This is not quite as robust, I guess. That's not the right word. It's probably more robust, but it takes less pressure to get this to start to close. And the number 15 by no means has a real strong back spring. It just seems like it takes less to get this to go, but not so much that it's a safety hazard. I don't feel like this is any type of safety concern with this. It's just something that kind of struck me. One thing on safety, guys, this jimping right here for my non-slip joint guys, let's just say it's there for aesthetics. Because unlike a knife that locks, it is a real fine line between good jimping and a good purchase and a bunch of stitches. That is very easy if you're going to choke up on this to slam that down on your fingers. You cannot do that with a slip joint knife or this detent style knife, a non-locking knife. I don't know why they put those on there. My guess would be that a company who predominantly makes some type of locking knife would absolutely put jimping on it because it does give you a good purchase. But when you don't have a locking mechanism, you're asking for problems. While we're talking about the back springs on traditional knives, this one, again, not having that back spring, is a little easier to open, but it's almost boring. Like when you buy a traditional slip joint knife, there is some satisfaction about opening this thing, being under the spring tension, that the Kershaw Federalist just doesn't itch. It's like these are the adult fidget spinner. There's just something nice about opening these up, and on a good quality slip joint, it's got a little bit of tension, but it's nice and smooth all the way through. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's the nostalgia, the fact that you can feel the quality in that. I mean, well, this doesn't have a half stop, but even in this, there's just something about fighting that back spring pressure that, I don't know. Like I said, it's like a fidget. And this guy, it doesn't itch that. But that's not a big deal. It's just something to point out. If you're a guy that likes traditional slip joints and you're going for this, understand you're not going to get that with this. This isn't as cool of an adult fidget spinner. But that being said, as a work knife, I think it'll be great. Continuing on, like we'd review any other slip joint, let's check the blade centering. So, pretty well centered. Green canvas micarta scales, which I absolutely love, or covers, whatever you want to call them. Fight me in the comments. But you can't go wrong with this material. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I hope they come out with a denim micarta too. Another really cool feature that they have on this is the shield. Again, a nod to slip joints. A lot of them like case and a lot of the Great Eastern cutleries. Of course, I didn't bring one out here, but you know, they'll have some kind of a shield. This is a poor example, but generally they'll have a shield inlaid into the cover scale material. So very well thought out with that and the half stop. I mean, really cool nod back to slip joints. You've got these steel liners, and then as far as fit and finish on the knife, I think they could have gone with a little bit darker green on the micarta. However, that will darken with time, so not a huge deal. Overall, really pretty good fit and finish, except back here on this polymer or plastic, whatever this is. I'm pretty sure it's just a polymer back spacer, but it is a little bit off. I know that's kind of hard to see on camera, but it is a little bit off. Not a deal breaker. I really wish they would have used a different material than this, because this feels cheap, whatever it is. I said I think it's a plastic, but it feels cheap, whatever it is. But not a huge deal breaker. I do like that the hardware appears to be user serviceable. So like if you wanted to take this apart and clean it, I think you could. That's also going to open up the options for different covers or scales down the road, so that's really cool. Your lanyard hole. So yeah, I mean, it's a very well thought out, well designed knife, made in the US. I could do, you know, a cutting video where we cut a bunch of different things like cardboard and all that, but I think we all know by now how CPM 154 behaves. A pretty consistent go-to steel in the knife industry by now. And then one other thing I kind of wanted to point out is, in pictures, this really doesn't look unproportionate, but when that blade is deployed, like with the amount of belly that's on this, it looks unproportionate to the knife. Like I don't know how to explain it. It just almost looks like it's just a little bit too much. And you know, I'm thinking to myself, this thing's going to stick up high whenever it's closed, but then you close it and it disappears. So I mean, that's kind of cool, but at the same time, I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe I'm just nitpicking at this point, but at the price point, I think I can do that. You could buy assuming you could get a hold of, because that's the struggle with Great Eastern Cutlery, you could buy a Great Eastern Cutlery knife for about the same money or less, you know, give or take a little bit, but depending on it, but it's right there in that territory. So I do have the right to be pretty nitpicky on this, I feel like. I also feel like the packaging, although to some, they probably don't care, especially with it being a Kershaw, but, you know, Great Eastern Cutlery comes in a tube, case comes in a nice box with cool graphics. You know, whatever you get in a slip joint territory, usually the packaging's pretty cool. That's just part of the territory with slip joints. I feel like Kershaw could have done better, especially for the price point, or, you know, maybe used a different material back here. But overall, I think for like a user, this is going to be a good knife. You know, other than those few gripes and I don't know if you want to call them cons, but nuances to this knife that I mentioned. If you're a regular slip joint guy trying to go for a modern knife, this might be the bridge to that. But if you're a slip joint guy wanting a regular slip joint, I don't know how you're going to like this lock. So with that, though, I mean, it is smooth and functional. Again, I think this will make a great user. And I'm excited to see the aftermarket that comes out for this. So, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments, and I will answer you as best as I can. As always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all those things. Helps me out, makes me feel good about doing these videos. And let me know what you guys want to see in the future in the comments. So, with that, guys, stay free.